All right, so look, I was doing some thinking. What if your spiritual psychosis is not necessarily madness, but what if it is the birth of your decolonized mind? What if, as you learn and understand, and you mentally and spiritually separate yourself from this anti-nature system, although on the one hand, you feel lost because you're separating yourself from everything that you knew? What if that's not the end of the story, though? And what if you're not crazy? What if this is the beginning of a new consciousness? What if this is the beginning of your decolonized mind? And just like Neo in the Matrix, once he got unplugged from the Matrix, he was like a baby. He had to start all over again. He had to relearn everything all over again. And as we separate from these anti-nature systems and anti-nature ideals, we have to relearn what it means to be a human again. We have to relearn what it means to have a sustainable life. We have to relearn what it means to interact with each other and the environment. So it's just like Neo having to learn how to walk again. And I think this is very important to recognize, because a lot of times, once we fall into this darkness, when we fall into these depressions, or we fall into this psychosis, we don't see the other end of the story, because it just feels like we are collapsing inside of ourselves, and then we're just going down this rabbit hole with nothing to grab onto or nothing to hold on to. But that's because, like I said, as we are separating our minds from this anti-nature reality, we have to build a new reality. And sometimes that's a little bit more complicated than what it seems like, because it involves reprogramming and deprogramming. And at the beginning, you can feel lost because you are in a new space that you have never been before. You are learning how to think, and you are learning how to plan and strategize and exist outside of these systems of capitalism, exist outside of these systems of exploitation. You are learning to be a human all over again. So I think you need to give yourself a break. Have a little bit of patience with yourself and realize that this is not the end of the world. This is just the end of the old version of you that existed in this system. And it is the beginning of the new you that can exist in the new world, that can build the new world. Because in reality, your psychosis only exists because you are the blueprint for the future. What you are was not meant to exist in this anti-nature system. What you are was meant to build the future. So although going through this mental separation is painful, and sometimes it feels like it's traumatizing, it is a very necessary process, because in this process, your consciousness is liberated, and you grant yourself the privilege to build a new world.